Imagine if I told you that one simple change to when you eat, not what you eat, could help your body burn fat more efficiently, balance your hormones, improve your energy, sharpen your focus, and even support long-term health. No fancy supplements, no extreme dieting, no starving yourself, just timing. That's exactly why intermittent fasting has taken over the health and fitness world. And today I'm going to walk you through a complete, practical, no confusion guide on how to actually do intermittent fasting the right way, especially if you're a beginner or someone who tried it before and gave up. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to start, what mistakes to avoid, and how to make intermittent fasting work for your body instead of fighting against it. Let's start by clearing the biggest misunderstanding. Intermittent fasting is not a diet. It's not about cutting calories aggressively or starving yourself. It's simply an eating pattern where you cycle between periods of eating and periods of not eating. Humans have done this naturally for thousands of years. Our ancestors didn't have access to food every few hours. They ate when food was available, and their bodies adapted to that rhythm. Modern life changed that completely. We now snack from morning till night, and that constant eating keeps our insulin levels high all day. When insulin stays high, your body struggles to burn fat. Intermittent fasting gives your body a break, allowing insulin levels to drop so your body can switch from sugar burning to fat burning. Now here's why this matters so much. Every time you eat, especially carbs and sugar, your insulin goes up. Insulin's job is to move glucose into your cells, but it also signals your body to store fat. When you're fasting, insulin drops, and another hormone called glucagon rises. That's when your body starts accessing stored fat for energy. This metabolic switch is the core reason intermittent fasting works so well. It's not magic, it's biology. Before we talk about how to start, let me say something important. Intermittent fasting is not about suffering. If you feel dizzy, weak, or miserable all the time, you're doing it wrong. The goal is to feel lighter, clearer, and more energetic over time. Yes, the first few days can feel challenging as your body adapts, but it should never feel like punishment. So let's talk about the most common and beginner-friendly approach. The method most people start with is called 16 and 8. That means you fast for 16 hours and eat within an 8-hour window. For example, you might stop eating at 8 p.m. and then eat your first meal at 12 p.m. the next day. Notice something important here. A big chunk of your fasting time happens while you're sleeping. You're not awake suffering. You're just extending the natural overnight fast a little longer. If 16 hours sounds scary, don't panic. You don't have to start there. A smarter approach is to ease into it. Start with a 12-hour fast. If you finish dinner at 8 p.m., eat breakfast at 8 a.m. Do that for a few days. Once that feels comfortable, move to 14 hours, then eventually 16. Your body adapts surprisingly fast when you give it time. Now let's talk about what you can and cannot have during the fasting period, because this is where most people get confused. During a fast, the goal is to keep insulin low. Water is always allowed and encouraged. Black coffee is generally fine because it doesn't spike insulin. Plain tea is also fine. Herbal tea, green tea, black tea, all okay as long as there's no sugar, honey, milk, or cream added. Once you start adding calories, especially carbs or protein, you technically break the fast. That said, don't get obsessed with perfection. If a splash of milk in your coffee helps you stay consistent in the beginning, that's better than quitting entirely. Over time, try to move toward cleaner fasting. Now let's talk about hunger, because this is what scares people the most. Hunger during fasting usually comes in waves. It's not constant. You might feel hungry at your usual breakfast time, but if you ride that wave for 15 or 20 minutes, it often passes. That's because hunger is largely controlled by hormones like ghrelin, which are influenced by habits. When your body learns a new eating schedule, those hunger signals adjust. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is eating poorly during their eating window. Intermittent fasting is not an excuse to eat junk food for 8 hours. If you break your fast with sugary cereal, pastries, or fast food, you'll spike your blood sugar, crash your energy, and feel hungrier later. What you eat matters just as much as when you eat. When you break your fast, focus on protein first. Protein helps stabilize blood sugar, supports muscle, and keeps you full. Add healthy fats like olive oil, avocado, nuts, or eggs. Include fiber from vegetables. Carbohydrates are not the enemy, but choose whole, unprocessed sources like fruits, potatoes, rice, or whole grains depending on what works for your body. The more balanced your meals are, the easier fasting becomes. Now let's address a big concern, especially for people who exercise. Can you work out while fasting? Yes, you can, and many people actually feel great doing it. Light to moderate exercise like walking, stretching, or strength training can be done during a fast. Some people even prefer fasted workouts because they feel more focused and light. If you're doing very intense training, you may want to experiment with timing your workouts closer to your eating window. Listen to your body. There is no one-size-fits-all rule here. Another common question is about muscle loss. People worry that fasting will cause muscle breakdown. In reality, when protein intake is adequate and you're doing resistance training, intermittent fasting does not cause muscle loss for most people. In fact, fasting can increase growth hormone, which helps preserve muscle. The key is to eat enough protein during your eating window and not drastically underrate calories long term. Let's talk about different fasting styles because 16-8 is just one option. Some people prefer 14-10, especially women or beginners. Some do 18-6 once they're more experienced. Others practice a 24-hour fast once or twice a week, often called Eat, Stop, Eat. There's also something called 5-Days-in-2, where you eat normally 5 days a week and eat very lightly on 2 non-consecutive days. The best method is the one you can stick to consistently without feeling miserable. Consistency matters more than intensity. Doing a gentle fasting schedule for months is far more effective than doing extreme fasting for a week and quitting. Now let's talk about who should be cautious. If you are pregnant, breastfeeding, underweight, or have a history of eating disorders, intermittent fasting may not be appropriate without medical guidance. If you have diabetes or take medications that affect blood sugar, you should talk to a healthcare professional before starting. Fasting changes how your body handles glucose, and medication adjustments may be necessary. For everyone else, intermittent fasting can be a powerful tool when done correctly. But remember, it's not a cure-all. It works best as part of a healthy lifestyle that includes good nutrition, movement, sleep, and stress management. Speaking of sleep, this is something people often overlook. Poor sleep increases hunger hormones and cravings, making fasting much harder. If you're staying up late scrolling on your phone and sleeping 5 hours a night, intermittent fasting will feel like torture. Prioritize sleep. It makes everything easier. Let's talk about plateaus because they happen. You might start fasting and lose weight quickly in the beginning, mostly from water weight. Then things slow down. That doesn't mean fasting stopped working. Your body is adapting. Instead of panicking, look at other factors. Are you overeating during your eating window? Are you moving your body? Are stress levels high? Sometimes simply tightening food quality or adding daily walking can restart progress. Another mistake people make is comparing themselves to others. Some people thrive on intermittent fasting. Others do better with a longer eating window. Women, in particular, may need a more flexible approach due to hormonal differences. If strict fasting makes you feel exhausted, cold, or moody all the time, consider a shorter fast or fasting only a few days a week. Intermittent fasting should support your life, not control it. Social events, family dinners, and cultural traditions matter. If you have a late dinner one day, that's okay. Just resume your routine the next day. Flexibility is key for long-term success. Let me share a simple example day to make this practical. You wake up in the morning and have water, maybe black coffee or tea. You go about your day, work, walk, live your life. Around midday, you break your fast with a balanced meal that includes protein, vegetables, and healthy fats. Later, you have another meal or snack before your eating window closes in the evening. Then you stop eating and allow your body to rest and repair overnight. Simple. No calorie counting, no complicated rules. Over time, many people notice benefits beyond weight loss. Improved digestion, better mental clarity, more stable energy, reduced cravings, and a healthier relationship with food. You're no longer eating out of boredom or habit every few hours. You're eating with intention. Now let me be honest. Intermittent fasting is not a magic trick. You still have to respect your body. You still have to eat real food. You still have to move, but it can simplify your life in a powerful way. Fewer meals to plan, less mindless snacking, more awareness of hunger and fullness. If you're just starting, my advice is this: start slow. Be patient. Focus on consistency, not perfection. Pay attention to how your body feels. Adjust as needed. Intermittent fasting is a tool, and like any tool, it works best when used wisely. And remember this: the goal is not just to look better, but to feel better, think clearer, and live healthier for the long term. If intermittent fasting helps you do that, it's worth exploring. If it doesn't, there are many other paths to health. Your body is unique, and learning to listen to it is the most powerful skill you can develop. If this guide helped you understand intermittent fasting in a clear and practical way, take a moment to reflect on how you can apply it to your own life starting today. Small changes done consistently can lead to massive results over time. Flexible fasting schedules outperform rigid rules because the human body is not a machine that runs the same way every single day, and real life is never perfectly predictable. One of the biggest reasons people fail with fasting is not because fasting itself is ineffective, but because they try to force their bodies into strict time windows that don't respect stress levels, sleep quality, work demands, social life, or hormonal fluctuations. When fasting is treated like a rigid law instead of a flexible tool, it creates mental pressure, physical fatigue, and eventually burnout. The body responds better when fasting adapts to life rather than life being forced to adapt to fasting. Long-term health and fat loss are built on sustainability, not discipline fueled by stress. A flexible fasting approach understands that the goal is metabolic health, not clock watching. Some days your body needs a longer fasting window, and other days it needs nourishment earlier. Stress hormones like cortisol play a massive role here. On high-stress days, forcing an extended fast can increase cortisol, disrupt blood sugar, and make fat loss harder rather than easier. Flexible fasting allows you to shorten the fast on those days without guilt, keeping your nervous system calm and your metabolism stable. This balance is what allows fat loss to continue over months and years instead of stalling after a few weeks. Rigid fasting rules often ignore biological individuality. Age, gender, activity level, muscle mass, sleep patterns, and hormonal health all influence how someone responds to fasting. A schedule that works perfectly for one person may cause exhaustion, cravings, or hormonal imbalance in another. Flexible fasting respects biofeedback. Energy levels, mood, hunger cues, and mental clarity become guides instead of strict rules. When people learn to adjust their fasting window based on how they feel, they naturally create a rhythm that supports fat loss without sacrificing health. Another key advantage of flexible fasting is its impact on consistency. Long-term fat loss is not about doing something perfectly for a short time, but doing something reasonably well for a very long time. Rigid fasting schedules often break during holidays, family events, travel, or social gatherings. When people feel they've failed, they tend to quit entirely. Flexible fasting removes the all or nothing mindset. If dinner runs late one night, the fast simply starts later. If breakfast is needed the next morning, it's eaten without stress. This adaptability keeps people engaged instead of discouraged. From a hormonal perspective, flexibility is especially important. Insulin, leptin, ghrelin, cortisol, and thyroid hormones all respond to energy intake and timing. Overly rigid fasting can sometimes signal energy scarcity to the body, leading to metabolic slowdown. Flexible fasting prevents this by occasionally varying eating windows, which reassures the body that food is available. This variation can actually improve metabolic efficiency, making the body more willing to release stored fat rather than cling to it. Mental health also benefits from flexible fasting. Constantly thinking about when you are allowed to eat can create food obsession and anxiety. Flexible fasting shifts the focus from restriction to awareness. People become more mindful of true hunger versus habit. This improves the relationship with food, which is crucial for long-term success. Fat loss that damages mental well-being is rarely sustainable, while fat loss that feels natural and supportive tends to last. Flexible fasting also integrates better with physical activity. Training demands vary from day to day. On intense workout days, eating earlier or extending the eating window can support recovery and performance. On rest days, a longer fast may feel natural. This responsiveness improves muscle retention, energy output, and overall metabolic health. Rigid schedules often ignore these needs, increasing injury risk and fatigue over time. Another overlooked factor is sleep. Poor sleep disrupts hunger hormones and insulin sensitivity. On days after inadequate sleep, forcing a long fast can amplify cravings and blood sugar instability. Flexible fasting allows earlier nourishment on these days, stabilizing energy and preventing overeating later. Over time, this leads to better appetite regulation and steadier fat loss. Culturally and socially, flexibility makes fasting realistic. Humans eat together. Celebrations, traditions, and shared meals are part of emotional health. Flexible fasting allows participation without guilt. This prevents the sense of isolation that often comes with rigid dietary rules. When fasting fits into real life, people don't feel the need to choose between health and happiness. From a physiological standpoint, fat loss depends on hormonal balance more than calorie obsession. Flexible fasting supports this balance by reducing chronic stress signals. When the body feels safe, it burns fat more efficiently. Rigid rules can create a constant fight or flight state, which is counterproductive for long-term fat loss. Over time, flexible fasting trains metabolic awareness. People naturally gravitate toward eating windows that feel best for their energy and digestion. This intuitive alignment is powerful. Instead of relying on external rules, the body becomes the guide. This autonomy is what makes long-term adherence possible. Flexible fasting also reduces the likelihood of rebound weight gain. Rigid fasting often leads to cycles of restriction and overindulgence. Flexibility smooths these extremes, creating steadier habits. The body responds to consistency with stability, not dramatic swings. In the long run, health is not built on extremes. It's built on rhythms that can be maintained through changing seasons of life. Flexible fasting evolves as the body changes with age, activity, and health status. This adaptability is what keeps metabolism responsive and fat loss sustainable. When fasting is treated as a supportive framework rather than a strict rulebook, it becomes empowering. People feel in control instead of controlled. That sense of agency reduces stress, improves compliance, and enhances overall well-being. Fat loss becomes a byproduct of improved metabolic health rather than a constant struggle. Ultimately, flexible fasting works because it respects human physiology, psychology, and lifestyle. It aligns with the body's natural adaptability rather than fighting against it. Long-term health and fat loss are the result of systems that can bend without breaking, and flexible fasting provides exactly that.